This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately.
You know, that's just one step above stupid.
Yo! What in the heck is going on? Some craziness. That's for sure. Absolute wacky. I mean, it was weird. I can't tell you 100% that something's related or not, what I'm about to bring up, but who knows, right? Who knows? Yeah, and that's the interesting thing when you have a channel like this that covers a ton of different cases. Sometimes something that you cover pops back up again when you cover something else, and then it makes you wonder. All right, so let's go over. So I'm just gonna start. There was a serial killer identified. But we're going to go back in time first. I'm going to get right to it. Thank you all for joining. If you'd like to help the channel out by hitting the like button or sharing the video, that would be awesome. Thank you. Share the video, hit the like button, tell other people to come here. We talk about actual cases going on, not the same one over and over and over and over and over and over again. All right? So here we go. Let's get going. I would say over and over 16 more times if I felt like I wanted to. All right. So I'm going back in time. We're back into... this is back in 1991 in February here. This is the first article that I have popping up. Actually, let me do this one in a different order here. Let me fix that. Hold on. This all just kind of came together pretty quickly here. All right, so let's go back to 1990, October 11th. So it says 4 killings, death may be linked. Major case squad detectives investigating the killing of an unidentified woman whose body was found October 4th in Maryland Heights have discovered similarities to the killing or mysterious deaths of 3 other women since March. Hey, thanks, Tony Lee. We are not ready to say whether we have a serial killer on our hands. Des Perez, Lieutenant Paul Bonta said Wednesday. Bonta is heading the major case investigation in Maryland Heights. Investigators believe there could be a link between their cases and the following deaths. The killing of Robyn J. Mihan, 19. Whose body was, let me move to page 11 now. This is, there it is, was found March 26 along Highway East near Silex, Missouri, in Lincoln County, about 60 miles northwest of St. Louis. So that is way over here. Here's St. Louis, and then her body was found way up here. And if we hit the, go to properties here, she was stuffed between 2 mattresses, strangled, and her hands were bound. Okay, so she was found right around in this general area here on this road here. I don't know exactly where or whatever. It didn't get specific. It just mentioned this road and approximation. So somewhere around in this area, and we can just take a look at what it might have looked like out there. But she was between 2 mattresses somewhere out in this general area. And she was a sex worker. So these are all sex workers here. So keep that in mind. The mysterious deaths of Donna Reitmeyer, 40, whose nude body was found June 11th stuffed in a rubber trash can on the sidewalk on, let's see, Gasconata Street between South Broadway and Ohio Avenue. All right, so in that case, we've got Reitmeyer right here. So her body was found right in this area. There's Gasconade Street, boom, boom. So somewhere right in this general area, her body was found. And it was stuffed in a rubber trash can on the sidewalk. And let's see, in Ohio Avenue in South St. Louis, there were no signs of violence, and the body was too badly decomposed to determine a cause of death. So she was so decomposed they weren't able to really determine the cause of death there. All right, then the next one, the death of Sandra Kane. Now that one there is interesting. It's not one of the 4 recently identified, but this is an article from back then, but she is one that they suspect might be from him. The death of Sandra Kane, 37, whose body was found May 12th on Interstate 44 near Compton Avenue. Police say she died of multiple injuries, but we're not sure if she was hit by a car, thrown from a car, or thrown from the Compton Avenue overpass. Okay, so the Kane, her body was found right in this area, and she was possibly thrown off this bridge here. Okay, so we've got that, and keep in mind, all these women were last seen right here on Cherokee Street, other than Mihan, who was right here on Chippewa, was where she lived, so they don't know if she was walking the streets right here that night, but all those other 4 women were taken from right there. Hey, it's Stacy. How's it going? So that's interesting. Hey, thank you very much, Tina Susser. Appreciate it. All right, let me see. Got to get my music playing. It always sounds weird when it stops playing in my head. So let's get back to this. The death of Sandra Kane, 37, whose body was found May 12th on an interstate. She was either thrown off or beaten. They don't really know exactly what happened. A 20-year-old man was arrested and charged with leaving the scene of an accident. So, you know, there's just other things mentioned in this article. But I'm going to move on to the next one, which is, now it goes through each individual. So here is Robyn Mihan right here. Evidence questioned in killing. St. Louis police and authorities in Lincoln County differ over whether enough evidence exists to arrest a suspect in the killing of Robyn Jeanette Mihan in March, her mother and St. Louis police sources said Thursday. The killing of Mihan, 19, a prostitute from South St. Louis, is the earliest of 4 deaths under investigation by Major Case Squad. On Thursday, the man who was a suspect in the case turned himself in after learning he was sought for questioning. Mihan's mother, Sandra Kunle of St. Louis, said Thursday that homicide detectives in St. Louis were prepared to make an arrest. But Mihan's body was found in Lincoln County, and authorities there have jurisdiction over the case. Homicide detectives told me that if Robyn would have been found in St. Louis, they would have sought warrants and at least arrested this guy. Mihan was last seen March 22nd walking from a car on Jefferson Avenue near Cherokee Street. So we could probably be more specific now. Let's see where Jefferson, and it's probably back this way. Jefferson. So there's Jefferson Street. So this main street right here. Yeah, okay. So she was right there. Let me put Mihan over there. Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. We can actually move that over there. See, one article mentioned that she was over there. So now all 5 of these people went missing right here. That's crazy. So obviously there's a serial killer working that strip there. Let's see, Sandra Kane 30, Donna Reitmeyer 40, who was nude, was found. Let's see if I, up here, yeah. So Mihan was last seen March 22nd, walking from a car on Jefferson Avenue. We can't place him with her, and we can't put him in Lincoln County, Bergen said. We got a physical evidence, but we need more than physical evidence. Jeffrey A. Robertson, an assistant prosecutor in Lincoln County, said the evidence gathered 2 months after Mihan's killing was too weak to book the suspect on murder charges. Donna Reitmeyer, 40, whose nude body was found June 11th in a rubbish trash can in South St. Louis, the body was too badly decomposed to determine a cause of death. Sandra Kane, 37, whose body was found May 12th, that's the one that was thrown off the bridge, an unidentified woman whose body was found in a rubber trash can October 4th in Maryland Heights, and that person has been identified at this point. That's actually, well, that's interesting because they actually said that was Mihan's body up there, so I guess we'll have to figure out what that discrepancy is there. All right, the only thing I feel is I'm sorry for other girls had to be killed like this. See, anyways, they think that they found the guy, but it's not him. All right, link is sought in the killing of 10 women. So now there's just this ton of people here. The Missouri Highway Patrol and the FBI examining whether 10 unsolved killings of women over the past 11 months here may be the work of one or more serial killers. I'm not ready to say there's a serial killer, but I'm trying to find out. There's a lot of similarities. Anything is possible. Bazzelli and other law enforcement authorities have forwarded their investigation reports to the FBI Academy in Quantico. All the victims are white. 3 have not been identified. Most of the victims were strangled, and most were sexually assaulted. All right, the murder scene for most of the victims is unknown. Most were killed at a different location from where their body was found. Only 3 bodies were recovered in St. Louis and St. Louis County. I mean, look at all these people right here. Elisa Self-Braun, 11, disappeared January 11th, January 15th. She was found January 15th in St. Francis River. Stephanie Renee Hoagland, 18, last seen January 5th. Found January 7th in Lincoln County. Constance Zaleski, 31, last seen October 13th, found October 14th near Deslidge. Unidentified teens or 20s found October 4th. Regina K. Walters, 15, runaway from Pasadena, Texas, found February 3rd. Unidentified woman, about 35, found August 26th. Unidentified woman, early 20s, discovered July 20th. Donna Reitmeyer, 40, found July 11th. She went missing June 3rd. Sandra Kane, 37, struck by a car May 12th on I-44. Kane may have been chased or thrown onto the highway. Robert J. Mihan, 19, last seen March 22nd, found March 26th. Maybe that was Smith up there, that unidentified person. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy right here. So, yeah, there's Sandra Little, 21, a prostitute from South St. Louis, reported missing by a friend on September 4th. That's the other, there's 4 women that today have been associated with one serial killer, and that is Robyn Mihan, Sandy Little, Brenda Jean Pruitt. I think Pruitt is actually the person up in the upper left. That's who I was supposed to have written up here. It's Pruitt. So hold on, let me fix that. I believe I might have that. Well, maybe. I can't remember if that is body. No, Pruitt's body was found there. So we'll have to fix that out. But they did identify that person in another article, and I thought that was it. So that's interesting. All right, let's see. The strangulation and probable rape of Alyssa Self-Braun, 11 years old, is the youngest. Let me get to the ones that we know for sure here in this article. Now, the mysterious death of Donna Reitmeyer, 40, whose nude body, decomposed body, was found June 11th in plastic trash can on a sidewalk near Gasconade Street and South Broadway. Reitmeyer was a prostitute and had been reported last seen June 3rd in South St. Louis on her way to meet a customer. The medical examiner's office was unable to determine the cause of death. The mysterious death of Sandra Kane, that was the one that was thrown off the bridge. The strangulation of Robyn J. Mihan, 19, another prostitute, whose body was found March 26th alongside Highway East near Silix in Lincoln County. Her hands had been tied and her body sandwiched between two mattresses. She had been reportedly last seen March 22nd, so about 4 days later. The unsolved cases have also stirred recollections of other unsolved killings of prostitutes. Sandra Little, 21, a prostitute from South St. Louis, reported missing by a friend on September 4th. Little was the last person known to see Sandra Kane. See, that's why it's weird about the Sandra Kane, right? Like, Sandra Little here is one of the victims of this serial killer. And Sandra Kane, see, it reminds me of the Lumberton. You know, how Megan Oxendine was the last one of the last people to talk to, I think it was Christina Bennett and I can't remember the other. So it was Megan Oxendine, Christina Bennett, and oh man, the other name's not popping into my head. And I actually covered Diana Brongart here before. It's on here. So we've definitely, there is a serial killer here. Let me get to some of the descriptions when these people, different individuals, were found. So here is area prostitutes frightened by series of deaths. The girls on the street better watch out, said Diane Little, 39. Whoever killed Sandy killed some of those other women too. Well, thanks, Loretta. I have energy today, though, but hey, I appreciate it. Oh, that was very nice. Thank you. It would have went. Let's see. Keep the energy up and the mood upbeat, despite the serious subject matter. Do I get the mesmerized kitty, please? Well, the problem is it wasn't turned on because I was just reading. If I turn it on, let's see if it catches it. I can play the music for you, though. Hold on. Wait, how can I do it? I got to do it for you, though. Hold on. I'm going to do it for you, even though it won't say your name on here. Hold on. All right? Just for you, Loretta. Hold on a second. Hold on one second. Okay, that's not the one. That's not the one. Hold on. I got to do the one, the variant. Oops. Where is it?
This is a test super chat alert
chat.
for $40.
I can do a test one. That's why. Okay, other variations. There we go. All right, here we go. Here's yours. All right, for Loretta Reyes. All right, there you go. There you go. Okay.
This is a test super chat alert for $50.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So, anyways, the girls on the street better watch out, said Diane Little, 39. Whoever killed Sandy killed some of those other women too. Little is the aunt of Sandy Little, whose decomposed body was found in a wooden box earlier Sunday by a motorist on Interstate 70 in O'Fallon, Missouri. The body was identified Wednesday through X-rays. Sandy Little, 21, had been reported missing by a friend on September 4th. She was a prostitute, but she was beloved niece to, said her aunt. She was a sweet girl, Diane Little said. We still love her. My whole family hopes the police catch the killer before we do. Prostitution was the way she made her living and supported her baby. She was trying to support her baby the best way she could. If she had stuck to prostitution and stayed away from the hard drugs, shooting dope, she could have continued living with us, said Diane Little, who has a husband and children of her own. Diane Little had legal custody of Sandy for about a year when she was 15 or 16. We gave her everything she wanted, but she still fell in with bad friends, I guess, Diane Little said. She ran up $400 phone bill. I almost lost my job over her because I was out every night looking for her. I went through all the foster parenting stuff for so long until I couldn't handle her anymore. When Sandy Little disappeared, she had a 9-month-old son. They lived above the antique shop in the 2800 block of Cherokee Street in the area where she worked. So she actually lived on Cherokee Street, which is where these sex workers would walk up and down and wait for the Johns to drive by. She was a pretty nice girl, said Robert Graves, who operates the antique shop. When she disappeared, I was sure something bad had happened to her because she wouldn't have left her baby like that. The mother of Sandy Little boyfriend is watching Little's son, who was about 14 months old. All right, so let's get to that. Let's see, Brenda Jean Pruitt now. Detectives have begun an investigation into the background of a woman who was murdered months ago but not identified until Monday. The killing of Brenda Jean Pruitt, whose body was found October 4th in a trash can on a roadside in Maryland Heights, is believed to be linked to at least 2 other murders of women, authorities have said. The killings could be the work of a serial killer, the authorities say. Pruitt's identity was disclosed Tuesday by investigators with the major case squad. Family members who answered her door near South Grand Boulevard and Cherokee Street declined an interview. Pruitt was reported missing by a family member on May 9th. She was 27 at the time and unemployed. We're hoping to get her an address book, said Des Perez Lieutenant Paul Bonta, who is heading the major case investigation. We want to do this right. We're not going to rush through anything. The victims of 2 of the killings, believed to be connected to Pruitt's murder, were both prostitutes who worked the streets within blocks of Pruitt's home. Pruitt has a record of arrest on suspicion of burglary in April 1990 and an arrest on suspicion of robbery in April 1985. She had never been arrested on suspicion of prostitution. The burglary charge was reduced to trespassing, and Pruitt pleaded guilty and got a 30-day suspended sentence. We've talked to a few prostitutes and they don't know her, Bonta said of Pruitt. We still got more people to talk to. Oh, that's interesting. So like the other sex workers don't recognize her. So maybe she wasn't one. However, she lived on the same street. Pruitt was strangled and smothered. Her identity was discovered by Janet Majors, a fingerprint examiner with St. Louis Police Department, who sifted through several individual fingerprint cards by hand. The major case squad had been unable earlier to determine her identity. That's pretty cool. Investigators think Pruitt's murder may be linked to the deaths of Sandy Little and Robyn Mihan. So, I mean, they were on the track even back then. All right, so did we do Robyn Mihan's individual one? Yeah, we did that one. Brenda Pruitt, Little. Okay. So here we go. Let's go to this just came out recently, like today. Okay, so listen to this. Alleged serial killer charged with murders of 4 women 30 years after their bodies were found across St. Louis region. So there's that garbage can. There's actually a body in that. So doesn't that even there remind you of Lumberton a little bit? And guess what? Lumberton's in the same state. Right? No, wait, Missouri. Sorry, I was thinking of a different case. My brain just shifted over to the other one. Yeah, so it's St. Louis. But, I mean, look at that. I guess that's kind of common if you remember all of the we've talked about so many different cases out there, and there's so many sex workers that are eventually put into a trash can. The families of Brenda Pruitt, Sandra Little, Robyn, Mihan, and Donna Reitmeyer now know the identity of an alleged serial killer who put their bodies inside various containers and packages more than 30 years ago. And police are hoping to add the family of a yet-to-be-identified woman to that list. Prosecutors from St. Louis, so maybe that one up there hasn't been identified that I was showing you. Prosecutors from St. Louis County, St. Charles County, and Lincoln County announced Monday Gary Muehlberg, 73, has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder for the homicides of 4 women who were working as prostitutes when they were killed. Muehlberg confessed to killing them between 1990 and 1991 after picking them up along Cherokee Street in St. Louis. Is that crazy or what? He's been in prison since 1995 for killing a man at his Bell Ridge home who tried to buy a car from him in 1993. Why would you kill a guy that tried to buy a car, by the way? The case came together after O'Fallon Police Sergeant Jody Weber sent evidence from a crime scene in Lincoln County to be tested for DNA. Earlier this year, DNA experts at the St. Charles County Crime Lab got a full DNA profile, which is required to run it through a national database of criminals called CODIS. Now, the evidence matched Muehlberg, who worked as a teacher, maintenance man, and construction worker. All 3 prosecutors sent letters to Muehlberg assuring him they would not seek the death penalty and that nothing about the current conditions in prison would change in exchange for a full confession. Investigators say he is in kidney failure and is not likely to live long enough to be put to death. The homicide of Pruitt, Little, and Mihan were linked to the same killer early on. All were abducted from what was known as the Cherokee Street Stroll. But Muehlberg confessed to 2 more killings, including Reitmeyer's that police weren't expecting. So, I mean, it's interesting, because what I'm going to bring up here in a minute, he doesn't mention here, but it could just be that, it was earlier, so he just didn't want to mention it, because I'm going to show you something that's really pretty startling. One of them remains a mystery. In a letter to Weber obtained by 5 on your side, the killer wrote, "I sincerely hope this new info helps and aids closure to all directly or indirectly to this negative actions. I am so sorry," and shut the hell up. Which, you're sorry for killing him, being a serial killer? No, you're not. Wish and pray this is a way closure in loss of their loved one, family, friend. It's hard to read this thing. It's really strangely, they missed a word there. Their loved ones, family member, friend, and can close off this terrible negative part of my past behavior. Finally, the past 1.5 months will close off the investigation to these untimely and unnecessary passing of the victims. All right, so let's see what this says. Oh, that's a whole press conference there. Maybe we could check that out after this.
Just hours ago, prosecutors charged a man they say murdered at least 4 women more than 30 years ago. Gary Muehlberg is charged with killing the women between 1990 and 1991 and then putting their bodies inside containers or packages. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Bush.
And I'm Kelly Jackson. Muehlberg has been behind bars since 1993 for murdering a man in Bell Ridge. It wasn't until recently that DNA evidence tied him to the other murders.
Tonight, our Justina Coronel was
So he's 73 years old. That means he was born like in 1950, right?
Those new charges were announced, and she's live outside the St. Louis County Justice Center in
No, not 49.
Yeah, Mike and Kelly, I'm told the reason why they got these answers today, all these years later, are for 2 reasons: technology and the dedication of detectives.
Thanks, Tina Susser.
Doc Atchison, Sandra Little, Robyn Mihan, Brenda Pruitt.
I guarantee it there's more here.
And Donna Reitmeyer.
That's just when he probably quit being a serial killer. And he's just willing to admit the ones that were sort of around that time. And let me just show you something before we get too far into this. Okay. Now let's see. Let me get that one off of there.
Any donation will help support the channel.
Oh, well, thank you guys. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's just, let's just, oh, that was, okay. That wasn't even a pin that I had. So check this out. Here's the street right here with the, you know, Cherokee Street, the strip where everybody walked. Look where all Mihan, Reitmeyer, Kane, Little, Pruitt. I mean, that's crazy, right? Like they all lived, right? They worked and lived on this little tiny strip that starts from here and goes to there. Doesn't, and I think maybe even to here, and then it doesn't continue any further. So all 5 of these women disappeared from right there. But you guys remember the other day when we were covering Sharon Hurley. Watch this. So I'm going to turn on Sharon Hurley here a second. So look at where, this is where Sharon Hurley was thrown off that bridge. And then she lived just right here too. I mean, look at where she lived. She lived right there. Kane's body was found right there. This is the strip. And remember, Hurley, the one from 1981, was a sex worker as well at times, I guess. So she lived right there in that general area right there. And then she was thrown off this bridge over here, just like Kane was. So Kane was thrown off a bridge too in 1991. And then I thought, well, shit, where does Gary Muehlberg live? You guys want to see something insane? Watch this. This is where Gary Muehlberg lived in 78. Okay, she was killed in 81. Watch this. Boom. Are you kidding me? This is where Gary Muehlberg lived in 1978. And we're talking, he lived right next to this strip. He's the guy that's already been just now admitted to killing all 4 of these women right here. Okay? And look where Gary lived. Are you kidding? I mean, in 1978. And, you know, to me, they need to look at this. All right? They need to look at this one. And then there was another address given to him that was right there. They just didn't have a date. So look where he lived compared to all these people. Then, in 1994, he moves out to this area. And then 95, he moved, there was another spot that was a little bit further away. I can't see it now for some reason. But so there's that one. Oh yeah, this one right here. So look where he lived outside of that time, making sure now he's outside of the zone here. I mean, that's crazy. He lived right in this. So what he would do was kill and then move their bodies far away and then go back to where he lived. I mean, what do you guys think? Don't you think that is... How could that not be? Are you talking about 1978? He lived right there. Right in the middle. Like literally, I mean, how far is that from there? Hold on. Yeah, that's not even a mile right here. And then he lived 1.18 miles from Sharon. And Reitmeyer was found right here, 1.46 miles. All 5 of these women, 5 women off of this street were killed. And then there's a couple bodies that he took far away from where he... you know, who knows if he took him back to his house for a while? Who knows? But what do you guys think of that? I know that the daughter is probably watching. I don't know if you're in the chat right now, but don't you think that is weird? I mean, why don't you ask the detectives to maybe see if he might mention something about that? I know serial killers prey on sex workers, so you know, it could have been a different one, but don't you find it interesting that he was 29 years old even? Like he was, you know, at 29, you're a killer if you're a serial killer, right? So he was 29 in 1981, and then he was 39, you know, or 40 during the 1990-1991. So definitely at 29, he could definitely started his urge as a serial killer. And she, if you remember, it's interesting that Cain and Hurley were both apparently thrown off of a bridge, and they think that Cain might be related to Reitmeyer. So, you know, couldn't she be? I mean, there might be other angles out there, whatever, but man, if I was them, a family member, I would definitely call in and say, have you guys ever considered, look at this map, look where Gary lived 3 years prior. I mean, he might have still been living there. That's what I'm saying. Like in 78, he could have kept living there, and then maybe moved to here after the killing. Who knows, right? But that's within 3 years of Sharon Hurley being murdered. And then in 94, he has one up here, and then 94 here, and 95 up there. So he definitely moved out of the area. So that's pretty much all I had on this this live here. I wanted to put it out there because I think it's pretty important. Plus, it's great whenever you... Do you guys want to watch that press conference at all? Or, I mean, we could try to play it. Let me see what this said.
Tonight, our I-Team is learning more about the victims and the suspect in this case. Our Christine Byers is here with what we found out in the investigation and what led to his original arrest. Christine?
And Kenneth Doc Atchison went to Gary Muehlberg's house in February of 1993 with $6,000 in cash to buy a car from him. He was never seen alive again. Police found his body 45 days later inside a makeshift coffin at Muehlberg's house. He's been incarcerated ever since.
He was in a makeshift coffin in his house. Shouldn't they should have realized right then, this guy is crazy.
Now, Atchison's family is learning that their father wasn't this killer's first or only victim.
Police believe 19-year-old Robyn Mihan was the first victim. Her body was found between two mattresses in Silex, Missouri on March 26, 1990. Donna Reitmeyer was found in June of 1990 inside a rubber trash can near South Broadway. She was 40 years old. Brenda Pruitt vanished in May of 1990. The 27-year-old's body was found inside a plastic trash can on the side of the road in Maryland Heights in October of 1991. Sandy Little went missing in September of 1990. Her body was found inside of a dresser in O'Fallon in February of 91. She was 21 years old. Muehlberg confessed to a fifth victim who police are still trying to identify. In a letter, he told them he put a woman's body in a metal barrel by a self-serve car wash sometime in 1991. Until now, investigators only knew about Atchison's murder. The 57-year-old had been beaten, shot, and tortured inside Muehlberg's Bell Ridge home. Atchison's daughter just learned her father's killer had more secrets.
I believe that this man is very evil. I never thought
bet this
that
guy's
my
killed
father's
15,
murder
20
was
people.
this man's first crime.
No
I'm
way.
extremely grateful for the
You know,
closure.
let's just pretend for a minute that it is, like Hurley is related, right? I mean, that was when he was 29 years old. This guy's probably killed, I bet you, he didn't just start killing people at 39, okay? You know, serial killers get going, you know, right around 30, 29, 30, something like that. So, you know, he's killed way more people. He killed 4 or 5 just in that 1.5 year period right there. I bet you he's killed 15 or 20. I mean, that's just pure guess, but man, you
Janet Hake is grateful too. She was stunned to learn she once lived 2 doors away from an alleged serial killer.
Maybe at
you
29
think, well,
he
he's
didn't
got a lot of girlfriends or friends.
Yeah, some do, but most start
I never knew
later
anybody
when they're killing people.
More people got killed in there.
The average is like 30.
Now, we obtained portions of letters the killer wrote to investigators. In one, he said, no matter how these victims chose to earn a living, they should not have had their lives taken in such a dark way. Investigators say he is now in kidney failure and isn't expected to live long enough to be sentenced for his other alleged crimes. For the I-Team, Christine Byers, 5 on your side.
All right, where was that? There it is right here.
An alleged serial killer is charged with the deaths of 4 women from more than 30 years ago.
Wait, is that
Prosecutors say Gary...
Hold on.
Before we begin our statements on behalf of everyone
It's only coming out of the left
We
side.
want to send our most heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims.
Here, hold on. I'll fix it for you guys. Just a second. It's going to take a minute.
As we hopefully are on a pathway to bringing them some semblance of
All right. Just hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Where the hell is that? There it is. Ah. All right, it's downloading right this minute, so hold on. Not sure why that's not opening, but
Thank you.
thank you. So, I don't know, you guys. I'm pretty like, wow, man, that's gotta be... It's so weird because I've been talking to the daughter of Hurley on Facebook, and they're trying to figure out who did this. But man, what are the odds that that just pops up the next day? You know, it's crazy. I mean, we don't know if it's the same one. I mean, maybe it's not the same killer. But are you kidding me? You live right in the same streets. I mean, right there in the middle of all the killers. That's just too coincidental, if you ask me. All right, let me slide this over into the... Did it finish? Hold on. It's still downloading right now, so... Might take a minute here. So I think it's because it was today. It's a pretty big file. Well, he might have the information, but you would think they're kind of just focused in on those 90s cases there. Probably forgot all about the ones from the 80s, you know. And maybe they're on to somebody else in that one. I don't know, but man. I mean, just look at that again. I'm downloading the video right now. Here's the strip where 5 sex workers disappeared, and maybe Hurley was on that street too. I don't know. But the serial killer that was just arrested for 4 of them, or charged with 4 of them, and confessed to 5, I guess. He lived right here and here. I mean, he's just right in the area, and that was in 78. And then who knows where he was living. I mean, this was 78, and whatever time this was, he could have still been living there all the way up until after he killed these girls. Or maybe he just knew of the area because he lived here. And then he moved up to one of these places and would drive in there, and then that's why he lives here, and he took some bodies further out because he wants them even further away from where he lives now. You know, in 1990, right? Thank you, Cindy Lynn. Yeah, but the cool part is, see how neat that is, though, that we cover such a wide variety of cases and cold cases and so forth, that those kinds of things get to happen sometimes. You know, we literally just covered a serial killer, you know, the Hurley out of St. Louis. I think it was on the 11th, so that was 8 days ago. And just randomly, a serial killer that killed people in St. Louis was charged, and he just happened to live in the exact place where Hurley lived, you know, back 13 years prior. Crazy. Yeah, it says there's 40 seconds left on this thing. But we've had things like that happen a few different times. Thanks, Tawny Lee and Tina Susser. So you'll just have to wait a minute. I got to get this downloaded, then I can... Oop, there goes my stomach. I'll probably just sit here and listen with you guys. And then after that, I'm going to stop it, and then I'm going to come back on later, probably at like 6:30 for a whole different case. Welcome. Please share, like, and subscribe. Okay, it just downloaded. And I'm going to bring it into this program, Adobe Premiere. Like that. Then it has to quickly get the... Oh, that's weird. It almost looks like a mono. Oh, there it is. Okay. And then audio channels. Add the same one to the right. There we go. And then audio gain. Maybe add like 10 to that. And I'll do some more. Maybe 4 more. And here we go. This should be pretty good.
Good afternoon. Thank
What
you
can
for
you say,
being here as we
everybody?
announce these
Man,
new
that is-
murder charges in 3 of our regional counties. Before we begin
Almost sounds
our
like great
statements,
quality.
on behalf of everyone here, we want to send our most heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims, as we hopefully are on a pathway to bringing them some semblance of closure in these matters. First, Tim Lomar, St. Charles County prosecutor, will announce charges that were issued from their respective jurisdiction. Then Mike Wood, the Lincoln County prosecutor, will announce charges in his respective jurisdiction. And my name is Wesley Bell, which you all likely know. I'm the St. Louis County prosecutor, and I will talk about charges that stem from this jurisdiction. We will also have some general remarks from our 2 police chiefs, O'Fallon Police Chief Frank Manini and Maryland Heights Police Chief Bill Carson. After that, we will open it up for a few questions. And just to make certain you all are aware, the staff from St. Charles County's Crime Lab has also joined us today. So with that said, I'm going to pass it to Tim Lomar.
Good afternoon. This today is a culmination of many years of, first of all, heartache for the victims, families of the victims, I should say. We're going on over 30 years that these murders have been unsolved. And there's a lot of family members in the room today, and I would address those of you who are family members of the victims. It may have taken a while, but...
Hey, look at that. It's Ricky Schroeder. What the hell's he doing up here?
But your family member was not forgotten. I'd like to pay particular tribute to Detective Sergeant Jody Weber of the O'Fallon Police Department. Jody is the person who single-handedly resurrected this cold case. Cold cases are never dead. They just go cold. And sometimes it takes the leadership and the intelligence and the dedication of a particular officer to lift this back up and bring people's attention back to solving these crimes that for 30 plus years have been unsolved. Jody Weber took this case upon herself back in 2008. Her specific quest at that time anyway was to determine whether or not the items of evidence in all these various crime scenes had been DNA tested. And to her surprise, the answer at that time was no. As many of you are aware, with the advancements in DNA technology, just in the last 12 to 14 years, we've come light years ahead of where we were in terms of the ability to test and find DNA. Such was the case in this investigation. Through Detective Weber's leadership, she was able to get the St. Charles County Crime Lab to test the right piece of evidence, and they did in fact find a DNA hit, which led ultimately to an individual by the name of Gary Muehlberg. Mr. Muehlberg is presently serving a prison sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole, for an unrelated murder that took place in the years after the murders that we are here to talk about today. My fellow prosecutors can speak to this more as well, but the three of us collectively, along with departments in Maryland Heights and O'Fallon, worked towards finding a resolution. Ultimately, we knew that because of the time that it elapsed, it was going to require the cooperation of Mr. Muehlberg. Each of the three jurisdictions were a part of this decision-making from the beginning. Each of the three of us agreed to waive the death penalty in exchange for Mr. Muehlberg's full cooperation. We are satisfied that so far he has fully cooperated.
Yeah, 5 murders.
As a result of that, St. Charles County has one case that we will be filing, murder in the first-degree charges, and I'll let Wesley and Mike speak to the charges pending in their jurisdictions. At this point in time, I'll turn the microphone over to Lincoln County Prosecutor Mike Wood.
Thank you, Tim. We did want to make the announcement today that this afternoon my office did file charges of murder in the first degree against Gary Muehlberg in the strangulation death of Robyn Mihan.
All right.
Thank you. I did want to reiterate what Tim had said, how important it is for us to remember what justice looks like even 30 years from now. These particular cases were quite gruesome and heinous, and even 30 years later, I think it was extremely important for us to stand forward and to show that we could provide some answers for these families and that we could have some closure. I can also state that the investigation is ongoing and that information that continues to come in is fluid, but we did have extremely convincing evidence that was presented to me by Sergeant Weber, who was with the O'Fallon Police Department, who's been working this case, as Tim had said, for quite some time. The body that was recovered was located March 1990 in a town of Silex just north of Troy. Sadly, the crime scene was quite disturbing, I'm sure, but what we can say is that a voluminous amount of irrefutable forensic evidence was recovered from that body, and because of that, the information gleaned from that case was able to break open wide the cases for the other counties. I did want to at least comment that in my experience it is quite unprecedented for not only as many agencies that have worked together as have today, but that we've got 3 prosecutors who are able to come together, communicate as effectively as we did, to put our heads together to make a decision on how we could best move forward. And I do want to give credit to Tim Lomar and Wesley Bell on their cooperation and the amount of information we've been able to share and are able to work together to get a positive result here. So that's what I have as far as the prosecution in Lincoln County, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Bell, and we'll be available for questions after that.
As was previously stated, this is coming out of cooperation and collaboration, which I think we know we have to do. This is about public safety, and public safety requires us to work together, because those who would commit crimes like these do not adhere to borders. And so that's why this is so important. And as many of you know, our office recently closed out another cold case from 18 years in the DeJuan Ferguson case, and that also required the same kind of collaboration and the same kind of stick-to-itness as we saw with the investigator and Detective Jody Weber, who did such an amazing job. But as often, those who do amazing jobs, they don't want to speak. So hopefully she'll change her mind and we can get a few words out of her. In St. Louis County, we are issuing 2 counts of murder in the first degree, which is a Class A felony against Gary Muehlberg in the murders of Brenda Pruitt and Donna Reitmeyer. These are both cases from 1990. Both cases were murder by strangulation committed at the defendant's home located at 3520 East Eager Drive in St. Louis County. The defendant has confessed to these murders, according to the O'Fallon Police Department detectives, who did an amazing job investigating this matter. The way he disposed did an amazing job investigating this. The O'Fallon Police Department detectives, who did an amazing job investigating this matter. The way he disposed of his victims, according to that information, connected these two and other murders, which resulted in media coverage and public awareness. A victim who will be identified by her initials in charging documents, BP, was found in a plastic trash can in Maryland Heights. Another victim was found in a plastic trash can in South St. Louis. And so with that said, we are going to now hear some brief remarks from Chief Manini, then Chief Carson, and then I'll come back before we take questions. Chief Manini.
Thank you. Good afternoon. First, I would like to thank the members of the victim's family, Doc Atchison, Sandra Little, Robyn Mihan, Brenda Pruitt, and Donna Reitmeyer for coming today. The goal of the O'Fallon Police Department and every other law enforcement agency is to bring justice to the victims and closure to their loved ones. We are here today for two reasons. The first reason is because of the determination and the exhaustive effort that O'Fallon Police Department Detective Sergeant Jody Weber put into this case.
Okay, so this article, Lorena just sent me an article. That's the daughter of Hurley. Let me do this one really quick here. So that's interesting because that is the house. You know, they said he lived in Bell Ridge, and that's where I have the house there. I guess it's been torn down though since. Like, let's see what that looks like. Is it still there in this picture, or they rebuild some? No, there it is. Look at that. Yeah, 2019. That's his house. I guess it's been torn down, but that's where he lived in 1991 when he was killing people. And so that's what I was thinking. 1990. So I don't know. It's interesting, right? Like, he moved out, but he knew this area from 78 because he'd already been there. And so he goes up here. Now he goes back to the area, and he can dispose of bodies over here or up here or over here, but it doesn't interfere with his area. He just didn't want to dispose of any bodies. I mean, look how you go like that. There isn't a body inside of that area, right? But down here is where he lived in 1978. And of course, he's not going to, at that time, put the bodies right next to the house. There is one over the other side of the bridge down here, which the water probably gave him a sense of security in his mind, right? Like, he was probably thinking, oh yeah, well, the water it's similar to distance. You know, it's a barrier. I don't know, man. I think you should call that one in, Lorena, and ask them about that. That's too coincidental. Too coincidental.
Sergeant Weber began investigating this case in 2008 and was relentless in her pursuit of finding justice and closure for the victims and their families. Detective Sergeant Weber consistently rose to the occasion when faced with the rigors and challenges associated.
He always maintained living near where his hunting grounds, right? He just moved further away from the hunting grounds, knowing that he could just go there when he felt like it. There was no reason to live near the hunting grounds. He could just make a 25-minute drive or a 20-minute drive over to the hunting grounds, pick up somebody, kill them, and then dispose of them somewhere, and then go back to his home. You know, it'd be dumb to, like, you sort of wonder how many, if Hurley is related, because he lived right in that area in 78, he might have thought, yeah, I gotta get out of this area, or maybe, I'd love to know exactly where he was living at all times during that time. But I know in 78, and there's another address as well, these two he lived in that are just right there in that area. Instability issues. I don't know if you can see me or not, but I got to sign back into everything. Adobe Premiere just can make you crash, just like that. Boom. Are you guys in there? Yeah, okay, good. All right. Yeah, Adobe Premiere causes crashing issues. It doesn't, I don't know what it is. It's never been a stable program, no matter what system you're using. So hold on a second. That was a quick reboot, though, instead of waiting for all that other crap that used to be. Now, let's see. Where do I go? Yes, we were talking about that case. We just went over the whole thing. Go hit the rewind button and go watch it. It was interesting. Yeah. And thank you to Pink Clouds. I appreciate it. Yeah, so, okay, let me try to get back to what we were doing. I don't know. Hold on one second. I think we were in the middle of a press conference. I was actually also reading an article here. If it crashes again, I'll just be back on later. All right. It's just going to take a second here. It's the fastest reset in the history of mankind.
Chewbacca? Oh, I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to.
Going back to the start.
Yeah, you got to go back. That's pretty interesting. If I do say so myself. Thank you, Ozzy Trisha. Elvina May. I'm just trying to get everything back up. It's tough. It's tough to do it quickly, I can tell you that. Let me pop this out over here and move this over here, and everything should be good. Oops. It's gonna go dark for a second, don't worry.
Free club from the UK.
Okay, got that. Load that back up again. Obviously, I probably didn't save it either, so it's going to cause a problem. Yep, don't have it. New sequence. Working on 18. And Nope. Audio channels, boom, gain, 14. And were we on this guy? Or we were past him, right? We were this guy.
Rigors and challenges associated with the 32-year-old investigation that crossed over into multiple counties. The second reason is because of partnerships. This case would not have been solved without the partnerships between the O'Fallon Police Department, the St. Charles County Prosecutor's Office and their investigators, the St. Charles County Crime Lab, the St. Louis County Prosecutor's Office, the Maryland Heights Police Department, and the Lincoln County Prosecutor's Office. This case involved partnerships across 3 counties and is representative of what law enforcement can accomplish when we work towards a common goal. Thank you.
DNA down. Wow, thank you so much. Kimberly Sheets.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Carson. I am the police chief in Maryland Heights, but I'm also one of the original investigators that first worked on this case almost 32 years ago. By definition,
let me see if that was.
My name is Bill Carson. I am the police chief in Maryland Heights, but I'm also one of the original investigators that first worked on this case almost 32 years ago. By definition, this is a serial murder case with 3 or more victims over a period of time with a cooling off period in between. There were a lot of police officers that put in a tremendous...
Okay, so if you're here late, just as a quick, let me just get Google Earth open again here. I gotta find it now because it's behind all this crap. I'll just do a quick recap so you don't have to, you can listen to the press conference and actually know what the hell we're talking about. Especially since it crashed my system, so hold on. Yep, there it is. Okay. Alright, so what's going on right now, there's a serial killer that has been arrested, and his name is Gary Muehlberg, and he killed at least 5 women in 1990, 1991 in St. Louis. Okay? Now, we have the fortune on this channel to cover a whole bunch of different cases, and the other night we covered Susan Hurley from 1981. This killer is 73 years old that they just arrested for, because his DNA matched, I think, three of the victims, and another one he confessed to. I think there's 5 total. There might be 4 total, but 4 for sure. And Robyn Mihan, Brenda Pruitt, Donna Reitmeyer, Sandra Little, and then there's a Sandra Kane that possibly could be connected. And then we covered Sharon Hurley. That was in 1981. That was 10 years before, but he would have been 30 years old. Serial killers are killing, you know, they start killing a lot of times in between the, like right around 30. So like you could go like 25 to 35-ish, something like that. So that's pretty wild, right? That he was 29. And then so after the article came out, there was some pins on here that I was like, what are those pins? And I remember, oh my God, that was Hurley. We just talked about her. So check this thing out. So Hurley was thrown off this bridge right here. Kane was thrown off, the other victim, off of this bridge right here in 1991. Okay, now check this thing out. This is where Hurley lived, right there. Look how close it is to this strip, and apparently she was a sex worker as well. And on the street right here, we have all 5 of the sex workers that are dead. All 4 that he's connected to certainly were last seen right here on the street. And guess what? Look where this Muehlberg guy lived during that time. Watch this. Right there. And then there's another one right here. He lived, look where he lived. During 1978, he lived right there. Then 91, he moved up to these other areas. Let me see, right over here, right there. He moved up here in 91, so he was living there when he killed the women in 91. But in 78, he lived right there, which is 3 years prior to Sharon Hurley being killed. Okay, so you got to admit, like, that is some weird coincidental crap, right? But we know coincidences happen. All right, here we go.
Tremendous amount of work on this case, going all the way back to 1990.
That's
and
not
that
my
work has
computer doing
continued
that.
Over the years,
that's the recording.
Officers from O'Fallon and the Maryland
Right, because
Heights
if I rewind it, it should do that again.
in between. There were a lot of police officers that put in a tremendous amount of work on this case, going all the way back to 1990.
Right there,
and that work has continued over the years.
They must have had a Dell.
O'Fallon and the Maryland Heights Police Department have continued to follow up on leads. The major case squad was called out.
No, he has not been tied to Hurley, Terry. But I'm saying, wow. I mean, so I wanted to look him up to see where he lived, and I just was mind blown. So whether or not he's connected or not, there might not be any way to tell. But one thing I suggested is maybe try exhuming her and see if they can find DNA, because apparently she was sexually assaulted. Remember, that was the disturbing case where her pubic hair was burned. She was scratched by what looked like fingernails. She had, there was blood coming out of her, private part. It's just a really horrendous situation, And Luna right there is the daughter of Hurley. She's right there in the chat, so if everybody, say hello. And I mean, we're sorry you've had to go through your whole life without your mom. Basically, it's ridiculous. So, guys, I mean, we don't know if this is the guy, but what do you think? Doesn't this seem interesting, Luna? I mean, like, just you have a serial killer living that close to where your mom lived during that time.
For the initial investigation on both the Maryland Heights and the O'Fallon homicides, and they put in a tremendous amount of work and kind of laid the foundation for where we are today. As Mr. Lomar said,
So everybody put some
earlier,
hearts out for Luna.
advances
okay?
in DNA technology allow us to do types of analysis that we could not do 30 years ago. But the ability to do that gives us hope that cold case homicides can be solved even 20 or 30 more years down the road. I recently had the honor, along with a number of other investigators, to meet with family members of 3 of our victims. There was a mother, a brother, a sister, a granddaughter, a boyfriend, and other relatives that were in the room that day. And the message that we had for them is that we had not forgotten about their family members. We hadn't forgotten about these cases, and that even after 30 years, we were still working trying to solve these crimes. And we were able to tell them that we had identified the person responsible, and that person was going to be prosecuted and held accountable for the crimes that they committed. In closing, I'd like to say that I think this is a great example of multiple jurisdictions working together to solve a series of crimes. Our department, the O'Fallon Police Department, the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, the St. Charles County Criminalistics Lab. I greatly appreciate the support of Mr. Bell, Mr. Lomar, and Mr. Wood. It's really very refreshing to see how all of these agencies came together, and they all wanted to see this case successfully concluded. So I know that we're going to open things up for questions, but thank you for being here, and my heart goes out to the family members that are here, and I'm glad that after this many years, we're finally able to bring some good news to you.
Chief, could I ask you the first question? Kevin, let's go in order. So first, before we take questions, I just want to reemphasize something that we've heard that is so true. This is about collaboration, this is about partnership, and that has been happening with these agencies since I've been here and beyond that, and I'm proud to stand with these individuals. And the last thing I'll say before we open up questions is that I've looked at, in the eyes of many of the victims' family members, and I've seen the emotion, and I can speak for all of us when I say this is one of the days that shows why we do this job. So I'm glad that we were able to work together behind our Detective Weber, who did such an amazing job. She's probably behind me somewhere. But thank you for everyone that helped bring this case to closure, and the victims' family members who never gave up. So with that said, Kevin, you can have the first question.
Just basically for anyone who has learned.
Hey, thanks, Audra and Paulette Leonard on PayPal and Cash App. Thank you very much.
Learn new things from this case. What do we know about Gary Muehlberg's motive in all these killings? Is there anything that ties them all together?
Tim, you probably use it.
Yeah, I get to answer the hard question. Thank you, Wesley. Honestly, Kevin, we really don't know a lot. What we do know at this stage in the proceedings, we're just not at liberty to really get into. I can say without going into a lot of detail,
Ricky Schroeder.
he was aware that the agreement we made with him was that he would
before.
fully cooperate. And we are all confident that he has, so far anyway, fully cooperated. But in terms of a motive, I wish I could tell you exactly what happened. That's a question that
is there any
there's only one
pattern?
person that knows.
It's not totally random. Is there any pattern to his connection to all these victims?
There were certain aspects of each of the crime scenes that were very reminiscent of one another. You take a look at the time period during which these victims were found. Several other things, which again I can't get into now, seem to indicate that we very likely
They need to go
had
back in time here.
a common
for sure.
denominator in all of these murders, and it
No
turns
matter
out
what.
that in fact we did. But in terms of a motive and how put it this way, the defendant was familiar with these victims only on a
Thanks,
very
your
surface
gypsy.
level. I don't think there was an extended type of relationship between him and any of these individuals. Gentlemen, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to either of those.
We do at least believe that there was some modus operandi that was that we were able to glean information how these victims were killed and how they were handled then at that point and then how they were disposed. But like I said, we are still continuing to investigate this case. The charges we've announced today may just be the first of many more charges to come. So we are still in communication with the defendant. He is still cooperating at this point. And so information continues to come in, and as that comes in, I think it may take a long time, but we hope that we'll gather enough information to where we can start to put those pieces together. Sean Singleton.
There are more victims out there.
There's at least some information to suggest that. I can't confirm for certain, but we are continuing to at
Well, there you
least
go.
meet with
There you
the
go.
defendant,
Who knows?
to develop that information.
And I want to be clear, this is an ongoing investigation.
I wouldn't be
The work
shocked at
that has
all.
been done,
I mean,
not only
seriously.
by our offices, but by investigators, is not done. And so this is an ongoing investigation, so that we can't disclose every piece of information and evidence at this point. But just know that we're still working.
There might not be, like, the MO sounds a little bit different. I mean, we don't have the details on the other ones. Like, we don't have, like, where they burned to, where they scratched and all that. So those kind of things matter, but sometimes MO changes, right? Like, we're looking at 1981. He might have been like, changed it up a little bit over the years and got to a point where he was just killing, strangling, and putting them in containers and so forth. We don't know. I'd like to go back and look in the 80s and see how many.
I know it was reported that victim was found in some kind of container in his home, so I didn't know if he was ever on anyone's radar.
Yeah, so the male was.
Just like with any investigation, whether being on the radar,
he's got kidney. He's been in
is
jail
not enough to
for a long
charge
time.
someone. And so, with many of these cases that we've seen, it's particularly cold cases, and before, as Tim talked about with DNA evidence that we have now, investigators were limited in what they could do and what they knew. But as I've seen in so many cases, members of our law enforcement community, our law enforcement partners, do not let these cases go. Sometimes we hear from families who are upset that their loved one's case has not been resolved.
Yeah, Sherry, I've already gone through all the places he
and
lived.
I can say, because I've seen it firsthand from our office and
It was on the
other
screen. I
offices
showed
as
it to
well, we don't let these cases go. And this is an example
We lived right here.
of that very
Right next to the
idea.
crime where
and in this case, Detective
Okay,
Sergeant
if you get her late, go back and hit the rewind button and you can see what we've already talked about. So here's where all the women were, the sex workers were last seen, and he probably just drove by, picked them up. Look where he lived in 1978 when Hurley was thrown off this bridge, and Hurley lived right over here. I mean, that just seems way, and that was 1981, which is just 3 years prior. Then he moved up to this area, and then he came back here. So in 81, these girls were young people, right? So they weren't killed yet. It was 1990, 91 that all of these girls, women were killed right here. At that time, though, he lived what the hell, up here, way up here. So he would just drive down there, take one of them, kill them, and then dump their bodies somewhere. However, during the time Hurley was killed, he lived right inside this sort of circle here. So you could look at it like, well, these women here weren't killed, and he lived here, but Hurley lived here, and then was thrown off this bridge over here. Then later, a woman named, with the last name of Kane, Sandra Kane, she was thrown off a bridge here in 1991. So, and they think he might be connected because Kane is the last one to see Sandra Little alive. So there's just too much weirdness now. Does that to say that there isn't another serial killer, or she was killed for something else? We don't know, but man, that is sure coincidental, right?
Right, let me get that right. She didn't let this go, as well as members of our Chief Carson's team and Chief Manini's team, just in general.
Is Sergeant Weber here today?
She is.
Thank you, Kendall E. Woodward Stone.
About what drove her to dust off a case everyone else had neglected?
Sure. Got her out.
Sergeant Jody Weber, what brought you to this passion for this case?
Well, when I first started the O'Fallon Police Department, I started in 2000. I was made a detective in late 2003. So a lot of the senior detectives would talk about this case, specifically Sandra Little. Her body was found in O'Fallon. So I started reading the reports, looking at the pictures. I was amazed that, that they weren't able to solve this case. And I felt like I could, look into it and see what I can come up with. So my first question is DNA. DNA was getting more popular back then. So I started to, I gathered all the evidence from the O'Fallon case and Lincoln County case, and I had it tested for DNA at that time.
What was that feeling winning with a match?
Incredible. Incredible. I'm so glad, obviously, all the family members are here today. To be able to tell them what happened to their loved ones was an incredible feeling. And I'm not going to take all the credit for this today because the St. Charles County Crime Lab, they did all the hard work. This was a collaborative effort with them for sure.
Was the DNA connected to both of those cases or just one?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, I can answer that. I wish it was like on CSI on TV where you just line up the evidence and you just get it tested and you have your results in 15 minutes or one commercial break. Unfortunately, as we know, it doesn't work that way. We're continuing to have the evidence from our crime scene tested, as well as I know St. Louis County is doing the same thing. So that's about the extent of what I can speak to in terms of the DNA evidence so far.
So it connected to the Lincoln County case?
Correct. Mike, you want to
talk
about that?
I can confirm that there was convincing DNA evidence recovered from the crime scene at the Lincoln County case.
Can I just ask Wood one more, or excuse me, you one more question, Jody? Did you ever get to the point where people were annoyed with you, but you had to just keep on this crusade? Or, is there a lesson for people that want to dig off cold cases that you're not going to get a lot of cooperation at first? Or
I wouldn't say that. I would just say stick with it. When they come back with, no DNA match, stick with it. Go back through the evidence, pick out the evidence, that you think most likely will have the suspect's DNA on it, resubmit it. Keep trying. With the advancements of DNA,
Yeah.
who knows?
Wow, see, that's such great advice right there. That's it.
Now.
Don't just give up. Oh, we got to, keep testing.
So the DNA.
It costs some money, but it's not ridiculous.
Already in prison. There's a database of DNA prisoners. Is that how that came to case?
Yeah, there's a database called CODIS that we're able to run DNA through.
Yeah, in fact, you have to put the suspect's DNA into CODIS first, and then you. So what they probably did was get a DNA match. Then in their case, they already had CODIS, so they just needed to get his DNA. Well, it sounds. I don't know if they did. It sounds like genetic genealogy maybe played a role, but you got it. CODIS is always first. That's their official system. And then once you the way it works in the law enforcement world is you get a sample into CODIS, then forensic genetic genealogy gives law enforcement a lead that a judge signs off on a warrant allowing law enforcement to surreptitiously gather DNA from a suspect. Then they go grab, get maybe somebody throws in a Coke bottle or something, then they swab that, turn it in, compare the DNA to CODIS. If it's a match, then they, I think a lot of times they arrest the individual, then they take another sample directly swabbing the mouth of the person to have like the official DNA sample, then do another comparison, and then if it matches, then it's just game on, game over really, basically.
Or enabled in order to match to anybody who's currently in the Department of Corrections.
Guys, what specifically was different with the technology in 2022 that allowed for success when previously it hadn't yielded any results?
They got the full profile. We read that.
Here's a science guy. That's why we went to law school.
Yeah, so the big difference is just changes in sensitivity. We can do a lot more with a lot less. I've been doing this for a long time now, and things have really grown by leaps and bounds in that intervening time.
I bet that guy could solve the Rubik's Cube in maybe 5 seconds.
And then a lot of it's just persistence and hard work. A lot of which was done by my colleagues, and just them being tenacious about, trying to find that handful of cells that might be present that we can link to somebody. So really sensitivity is the biggest part of it.
What's your name?
Dan Fonstock. F is in Frank.
Delphi doesn't have a good DNA sample.
Nestock.
Who are you with?
I'm with St. Charles County Police Department Crime Lab.
But yeah, they could submit more parts.
I'm the DNA technical leader.
No doubt. No doubt, man. That guy.
DNA data.
I think we're going to wrap up. I should have known if anybody could have got
That's so classic.
Detective Sergeant Weber.
I mean, I thought that's funny, but watch what.
He's affectionately.
See, look at him. The Rubik's Cube guy. Watch when he tries to walk away here. Watch this.
I think we're going to wrap up. I should have known if anybody could have got Detective Sergeant Weber to talk. It would have been Kevin. So
it's like it's like lizard eye all the way. Lizard eye all the way.
I just want to acknowledge the.
He said lizard eye too on his first date.
And I say that on behalf of all of us. We truly do this work for days like this, and you are with us, and we're praying for you. And then also want to recognize everyone up here behind me and everyone who had a hand in bringing this case to closure. We're still working on that, but the path to closure, I should say. So that's all we have for today. As more information is available, we will keep you updated. But thank you for being here. Thank you for reporting on this. And again, we pray for you all.
Okay, and here's an article right here. It says, how notorious serial killer Gary Muehlberg terrorized St. Louis. Born in 1949, Muehlberg grew up in Bellefontaine neighbors at a time when the North County municipality were experiencing rapid growth. Muehlberg's father, William, had been a policeman until he left to join the military during World War II, earning a Purple Heart after being wounded in the Pacific Theater. He later served as a major of Bellefontaine neighbors for, I think that must be a name of a place or something, for one term, 1955 to 1957. Less is known about Muehlberg's mother, Palmyra. One of Muehlberg's ex-wives tells the RFT Palmyra worked in accounting for a department store. In 1966, when Gary, that's the killer, was 17, the family, so 17, and then you add 4, 5, 15. So he was, so 66, he was 17. So he was like 31-ish, born in 49, 32 years old during if he is the killer in, and hold on, in the Hurley case, you know, so, you know, he'd be 32 years old. That's right when you're a serial killer, and he lived right there. We'll see. In 1966, when Gary was 17, the family moved to Salina, Kansas, where his father took a job with an oil company. Like their father, both Gary and his mother, Ronald, enlisted in the military during the Vietnam War. Gary completed basic training in 1968, though it's not clear if he was ever deployed overseas. The same year, his older brother, who was 21, died during battle in Mekong Delta. Huh, that's interesting. Gary married for the first time in June of 1970, so he's like 21 years old. A grainy photo in the Salinas Journal. Is that him right there? Yeah, right there. Gary Muehlberg. Jeez, how crazy is that? In February of 1972, Muehlberg was charged with rape, kidnapping, and an aggravated robbery after breaking into a house in Salina where an 18-year-old girl was home alone. She told police the 23-year-old Muehlberg held her at knife point, raped her, and then forced her to accompany him to the bank to withdraw $25 to hand over to him. A judge ordered a mental competency examination be done on Muehlberg prior to his trial. He was convicted on the robbery charge, but acquitted of rape. How is that possible? What? After spending a month in prison, he was ordered to check into a treatment at the VA facility. How was the rape not... I mean, you know, I don't get that part. That's crazy. In January, the following year, maybe she couldn't prove it or something. I don't know, but geez, what a joke. In January, the following year in Salina, a 14-year-old was babysitting even younger children, so a 14-year-old. And so he's like 24 at the time. When Muehlberg knocked on the door asking if he could use the telephone, brandishing a knife, he told her he was going to rob the house. He then tied up and gagged the young girl, locked her in the bathroom, and then ominously, doesn't say it, but I'm going to say it, ominously began filling the bathtub with water. However, a car drove by, and a panicked Muehlberg, thinking it was the girl's parents, fled the house. Muehlberg was again charged with aggravated assault. At trial, Muehlberg's lawyer claimed that Muehlberg had gone insane at the time of the incident. Muehlberg's wife, mother, and psychiatrist testified for the defense. The jury found Muehlberg guilty, and he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. That's it? Jesus. Later in 1973, Muehlberg's first wife divorced him, the psychiatrist. He had little contact with his wife or son from that first marriage thereafter. That same year, his mother and father moved back to St. Louis, where his father died of a heart attack soon after. So where did this take place? Okay. So when they say move back to St. Louis, where was all this other stuff taking place? I forgot. Oh, VA. No, it's that's a hospital. Oh, Kansas, maybe. Okay, so maybe we'll check that out here in a minute. Upon his release from prison, Muehlberg attended classes at Central Methodist College and Central Missouri State University. He married again in 1980. Well, maybe it was still in, let's see, let me just try to figure this out. Later in 1973, Muehlberg's first wife divorced him. He had little contact with his wife or son. That same year, his mother and father moved back to St. Louis. So, you know, I think he was in Kansas at that time. And then after he got released, he went back to where his parents were. So he was in Kansas. Okay. He married again in 1980. So this is 1 year, 1 year before, hold on, my computer just did a weird thing. 1 year before Hurley was killed. So let's see how this makes. I mean, we don't know if Hurley's related. I'm just saying. It just feels something seems similar about it. He married again in 1980. The RFT spoke to the woman, now in her 70s, who was married to Muehlberg for 6 years before divorcing him in 1986. So isn't that interesting? Like from 80 to 86, he's out and about, and they were married and living together. She describes Muehlberg as an unremarkable husband who was, just fine as a father. He always had problems with authority at work, she says. He always resented having to listen to a boss. After their divorce, she says he wasn't particularly interested in spending time with his 2 children, who lived with her but also frequently spent time with Muehlberg's mother. Muehlberg himself was rarely a presence in their lives. I got away from him, she said, and I was glad I did after I found out that he killed that guy later on. When told why exactly, a reporter was calling, inquiring about her ex-husband, she adds, now I'm really, really glad. I could have been dead. I don't know if there's a whole bunch in order. That's the house right there. It was your friendly neighborhood coffee shop, says Larry. Huh. I have to go through these and put something together. But man, that's just crazy. Absolutely nuts, you guys. So who knows, man? Maybe one of the cases we just covered 8 days ago of Sharon Hurley will be related because he lived right in this area in 1978, and probably, 78 doesn't sound like he could have lived right there, but the dates in these things are a little bit off. So wouldn't that be crazy if in 1980, when he lived with his wife, because he was still probably in prison, but it's hard for them to get the exact dates because it's so old. So at least 78 is what was mentioned on Ben Verified, that he lived here, and then at one point he lived over here. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if this is where, one of these two is where he lived with his wife from 80 to 86. And then, maybe he frequented this area and picked up Hurley, and whatever happened, maybe he's really angry at home and he took out all of his rage on Hurley and threw her off this bridge over here. Because he is a serial killer. He was 32 years old at the time, and you don't just start killing at 42. Okay, he was killing before that, I can guarantee you. So, all right, that is it, you guys. That's all I've got for this show. I appreciate you all coming on here. I'll be on a little bit later, maybe 6:45 or something, to go over another sort of a current case that's going on, and we'll see what we can figure out on that one. All right, but if you guys want to be somewhere and take a break from the the channels that just keep covering the same one over and over and over and over and over again, well, here's where you can be. You can be over here where we talk about tons and tons of cases. And thanks for being here, Lorena. And maybe I might even call over there tomorrow and let them know, or you can do it yourself if you have a contact over there. But I'm just going to say, hey, have you guys ever looked at this? And because they really need to see where he was living to become interested. If they see he lived way away, okay, well, I don't know. There's a lot of people. But you're talking about he was living right there, in between where she might have been walking and picked up in her house. And then she was brought over the river as sort of a barrier, like people seem to think, and dumped her on the other side. If that is the case. I don't know. I feel like it's real. I think there's a chance. What do you guys think? I mean, put a 1 if you think it's a pretty decent chance that guy has something to do with that. I really do. I think it's a decent chance. Like, that could even be like 20%, which is decent to me. Because, man, that's way too coincidental, if not. Let's see. So thank you on this live stream to Tammy Lee, Tina Susser, Jen Allison, Tina Susser, Loretta Reyes, Tina Susser, Tawny Lee, Tina Susser again, Cindy Lynn, Pink Clouds with, says I'm late for the party. And then Ozzy Trisha. But also Loretta Reyes was a double cat eye. I don't want to forget that. And then Ozzy Trisha, Elvina May, Kimberly Sheets, another double cat eye. And then Your Gypsy and Candalee Woodward Stone. Then over there on, we have Angela on PayPal, who said, thank you for being here every night to bring us new cases, cold cases, and updates. Very cool. Well, I'm going to put you in the notebook, well, first of all, for a spin. And then you also get a notebook for sending in 25 on PayPal. So I'm going to get your address and put it over on the notebook sheet. And if after I send out my next batch, if you don't get one, let me know, because I tried to go back and recreate a list that got screwed up on the last, when I was fixing the computer. Not today. I mean when I reinstalled Windows again. So thank you, and then also. Paulette Leonard, and then it was Audra on the Cash App. All right, so thank you guys, really appreciate it, and we will see you guys later in the evening. All right. So I appreciate you guys all being here. If you'd like to hit the like button. And on your way out, maybe leave a comment under the video what you think of what's going on here in this case, what the possibilities are. Leave your comments down there, and then also share and let people know about the channel. All right, everybody, thank you very much, and we'll see you guys in 45 minutes or so. Until next time, be safe out there. Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime dissector, slug rejector. I'm a certified human lie detector.
Gonna get you, wanna stretch you. You can ride plenty like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Gray is gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a fall detector, full deflector, interceptor, and I mean a little spectre with a vector
on his spectre. With all respect, y'all, just remember I've a temple fucking check ya. I have no agenda. I'm a right-hander, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender.
Alright everybody, we'll see you guys later, maybe in 45 minutes or so, okay?
Yeah, I just told him that.
Okay, but I'm letting him know too, Gray.
I know, but I already said it. Why do you need to say it again?
Well, maybe some of them didn't hear you. God, Gray.
You're crazy, Mary Lou. All right, see you guys later.